Hello and welcome to today's BITRIX24 webinar HR Toolkit. Thank you very much for joining today. Okay, so first of all, we'll just go through some introductions before we start today's webinar. So I'm Sam Connor, Sales Manager here at Interface, and we are BITRIX24 Gold Partners based in the UK, the US, and Hong Kong. And we offer a full range of services to assist you with BITRIX24. So starting off with pre-sale support, so we can help you to evaluate BITRIX24 and really see if BITRIX can manage your key requirements. And if it can, we have implementation team here, so we can set up the BITRIX24 system so it is designed exactly how you need it to work. And if you're interested in the self-hosted edition of BITRIX, then we can provide you with our hosting service. So it is a private cloud solution of BITRIX24. And we also provide tailored and bespoke training and ongoing dedicated support to really ensure businesses get the most possible value out of the BITRIX24 system. Okay, so if you're joining today's webinar, actually maybe to get some more information about BITRIX24 as a whole, let's just go through some of the key elements of what BITRIX24 actually is. So essentially, BITRIX24 is a collaboration suite of well in excess now of 40 different tools that you can use to help you to manage your business. And there are over 15 million customers now around the world that use the BITRIX24 system. So it's a very popular, well-utilized system globally. And the system is available in two different editions. So we have the BITRIX24 Cloud and we have the BITRIX24 self-hosted solution. So maybe for security purposes, if you want this within your own server infrastructure, the self-hosted solution is an excellent choice for you. And then in terms of pricing, so prices start from approximately $49 per month for a basic cloud license. And then the self-hosted starts at $3,590 for a Business 50 edition. And that's for the first 12 months. And then in year two, and then ongoing annually, you'll pay a renewal fee to continue to access the system. And in both the cloud and the self-hosted, they're scalable products. So when you need to add more users to the system, you can upgrade your license. So with BITRIX24, you don't pay per seat. You get a number of seats on the platform. So as you scale, you don't need to continuously purchase additional single seats on the platform. And if you have any questions as we go through today's webinar, then we're live here on YouTube, so you can add your question into our question box on the YouTube channel. Or if you have any other questions, maybe after today's webinar, you can contact us, sales@interface.com, and one of our team will be happy to discuss your questions and help you with anything regarding your BITRIX24 system. Okay, so today's webinar is the HR Toolkit. So to summarize what we will be going through today, we're going to be looking at all of the HR features within the BITRIX24 system, and there are a lot of them. So if you're looking at your BITRIX system and if you're thinking there is maybe a module like the CRM, which is called HR, you won't find that. The HR features, they're built into lots of different areas of the BITRIX24 system. So it has tools for finding employees, managing work time, and there's personal areas where you can store contracts and appraisal documents. We also have a really powerful workflow engine, so you can create self-service forms for managing different types of HR processes, such as absence requests or expenses or purchase requests. It's incredibly flexible to your HR requirements. And then you can take that to the next level and you can build custom processes such as onboarding new starters, for example. Okay, so we have lots of different options available for you to utilize the HR features within the BITRIX24 system. And what we'll do first of all is let's take a look at some of the HR tools at a high level, and then we'll start to drill down into some of those workflow processes. So we'll take a look first of all at some of the fundamental HR areas. So we'll take a look at the profile page where users' information is stored, and then we'll look at the company structure where we can build out the whole organization's departmental structure. Then we'll take a look at time management, how we can track time through BITRIX. And then we'll take a look at the personal drive areas, how we can use different engagement features inside BITRIX. And then we'll take a look at some of the self-service forms and processes. And as I say, please do add any questions into the YouTube chat here. We're live today. So if you have any questions, we can go through those with you. Okay, so let's go over to our BITRIX24 system. So as we go through the different features today, I will explain if there is anything only available on a certain tier and edition of BITRIX24, and if there is certain functionality where you might need, let's say, a self-hosted version. I'll explain as we go through. But what we're looking at here, this is the browser edition of BITRIX24, and there is also a desktop application and a mobile app as well. So let's say if you're out of the office, maybe you need to update or have a chat with someone through here, you could still use the functionality on the mobile app to manage your BITRIX system. So what we can see first of all here on the top right hand corner is you can see the live area here. So I can see who within the organization is currently on their BITRIX system. So I can see we've got 2 employees, Sam Smith and Mark Hope. So that's quite nice to be able to start that engagement process with your colleagues. I can see who's available to chat with. You might be in different areas of the world. So that's a nice way to be able to see who is available to work with. And then if we go into our profile area here, each user on the BITRIX system has their own profile page. Okay, so within here, you can store an image of yourself, and then we've got additional fields here. So this is custom field information. So you can create fields to store specific details and information, and that data is then saved on your profile. So we can store all of our details. We have here, this is our custom absence management tool. So I'm going to show this in more detail later on. But if you want to add leave entitlements for your employees, that's an additional feature. So this is a plugin that we have built here at Interface. So you could show the employees leave entitlements, and that will automatically update as new leave requests are added onto the system. And then within their profile, we can see all of their details, who their subordinates are or their supervisor is. And we've got a really nice feature here. This is shortcuts into different areas of the BITRIX system. So I can open up to see all of my tasks in my BITRIX system. Or if I wanted to go into my feed area, I could open up my news feed and see the latest conversations that are taking place. Or let's say I might want to document all of the documents in my drive area. I might want to quickly reference those. So it's a really nice area within your profile. You've got shortcuts into some of the core areas of your BITRIX24 system. Okay, so that's looking at an individual user's profile. But then if we go into the employee module, then what we've got here is the company structure. So the company structure is where we can build out the entire structural department hierarchy of the organization. So inside here, we can add all of the different departments for the business, and that can include sub-departments. So you've got that relationship here. So I can see the sales department, and then we've got a sub area for just specifically the northern sales team. And we can then add users into their relevant departments, or it can be multiple departments that we add them to. So you can add people into their area of the business. And one view here that you can see, it is a very useful view, especially for new employees who maybe are looking to understand what staff work in what areas of the business. This essentially gives you that global overview of that information. So it's really useful for your employees. But it's not just used as a view, it's also really important because it's then used in lots of different areas of the BITRIX24 system. So, for example, on permissions, if you use the CRM system, we can put department permissions to control what data you're able to access. And it's also can be used for workflow approval processes. So if we're later on, we'll see when we submit a holiday request, that might go through an approval area. So anyone in the accounts department, their request would go to John Smith, as John Smith is the head of the accounts department. So you can put processes in place that uses this company structure as an element across the BITRIX24 system. And then we also have the employee database here. So that all of that information from the company structure and the user profile, it then becomes rolled up here inside the employee list area. So I can see all of the information about the employees, and I'm an administrator on this page, so I can customize the layouts here, and I can control what information we would like to show here. So I might want to show all of the skills of each employee. So in their profile, people can log what skills they have. So let's show that information, and then I can set this for all users on the system if I wanted to. So if we apply that information, and then a user can then go through here and check. So let's say if you're a new employee, you've got this filter section. I might need to find someone who's involved in payroll so I can speak to them. And then I can see that inside the system here. I can see that information. So you can control what information different users are able to view and then access inside the system. And you can filter your way through all of this information. And so I can see Mark is available. So if I wanted to actually view a profile page, I could click into that user's profile. And through here, you can then start to utilize some of the communication channels that BITRIX24 has. So you can set up, so you can do instant chats in here. You can set up channels to communicate with your colleagues and teams. And so that can be, so individual chats, could be project chats, or we could even set up video calls and voice calls through the system. So it's really customizable to how you would like to work. Okay, so that is a look at some of the engagement tools here within the BITRIX system. So we have that user profile, the company structure, and then the employee information. And then you've got the capability here to then collaborate with your colleagues through the system, through instant chats, voice calls, and video calls. So the next area we'll look at today is the time management features. So within the BITRIX system, you can set up schedules for your employees. So within here, if you want to use these features in terms of time management, then some of these elements you would need to have a professional cloud license as a minimum, or any self-hosted system. But what we can do inside here is that we can then assign schedules to staff. So we can select their working days, what their working hours are, and their break time. So let's say here, they're going to be able to have 30 minutes of break. So I can apply that information. I can then select the range when this working hour pattern is going to be assigned for. And then we can apply that for users. And what we can then also do is you can, as management, you can track any violations to this information. So it may be, let's say, for example, we allow the employees to clock in up to 9:15 a.m. Okay. So we give them 15-minute leeway. But if they're not clocked in by that time, then we're going to notify certain employees in the business or maybe departments here. So they're going to now be notified if an employee has not clocked in by that specific time. So you can then start to work on to why that person has not entered the business and clocked in by that time. So some really useful features there to be able to assign that time in the system. And then you can turn on the time tracker tool. So when employees into the system, they can click in, they can clock out for their working day. So all of that information can be stored inside the system. And if we open up our work time area, then when that time is logged in for the clock in and the clock out and the amount of break time that the employee has, you'll see that information in the system here. So you can see a total summarized amount of time that that employee has been working. So I can see the clock in, the clock out time, and their overall hours. And there may be additional information that the employee enters. So here I can see this person had a late finish. So they've marked that information on the system. So it gives you that global view there of the time for that employee's working day. And another way we can manage time is on our tasks. So BITRIX has a really nice and powerful task management system. So inside here, you can record time on tasks. So you can log that time, you can pause or manually enter information on the time. So you can see all of the history then of the time that has been spent on your tasks in the system. And you can then report on that task time. So this information is going to be coming to the BI Builder tool, and then you can also build out reports using the report wizard inside the tasks and projects area as well. So there's different ways you can then report on that task time in the system. Okay, so that's a look there at some of the time management features. And some of the areas that are really popular for HR is the drive area. So you can use this as a document repository system. So you can upload documents into the system here. So this is the company drive. So we've got different folders here for different client projects. So we can store information inside here. And so we can then also, using the BITRIX Docs feature, you can collaborate and edit those documents live through the BITRIX24 system here. With any documents you store inside here, I can see the revision history. So I can see when changes are made to those documents, and I could also revert back and restore to a previous version there. And the documents as well, we can also put access permissions. So on folders or documents, you can control essentially who is able to view and access that documentation through the drive area. And on the company drive as well, we can run business processes. So you can run a workflow on any documents that you create inside the BITRIX system as well. So you've got that capability. As I mentioned at the start, this HR features really embed into all areas of the BITRIX system. And this is a prime example where we can then start to run workflows on documents stored inside the system. And alongside the company drive, you also have your personal calendar, personal drive area. So this is where we can store documents for myself. And within here, no one else would have access to these documents. So each personal drive, it is personal to each user. But what you can then do is you could maybe set access permissions. So I might say specific people, they're able to access these documents that I have stored in my personal drive area. And I can control as well their level of access rights. So you might want to set maybe a read access, or let's say I want to set a full access for Mo Jones. And you've got a filtering tool here, so you can filter. If you have a lot of documents stored in here, you could easily drill down through all of that information. Like so. Okay, and there's a very similar structure in the calendar area. So Inside here, you've got your own personal calendar, so we can store all of our events and meetings. And then I can add people to the actual events, and I can see their availability. So I can see everyone is free at 12 till 1 on the 21st tomorrow. So I can add that meeting in for us all, and we can then have that meeting shared into our calendars. It's also possible to connect your external calendars as well. So if you wanted to connect your external calendars with BITRIX calendar, you can synchronize. And then we have our company calendar in here as well. So you can store your company-wide events and filter your calendars inside the system here as well. Okay, so let's look at the drive and the calendar. So we've seen a lot of different areas evading around the BITRIX system where HR features are available. So as I've mentioned, there isn't a module here which is simply called HR where all of this functionality is. It really is embedded into the entire framework of the BITRIX24 system. And another area where we utilize HR features is within the feed page here. So the feed page, it's essentially a modern intranet newsfeed board. So each user has their own personalized feeds board here. So in here, I can see the meeting event that I have just been requested to attend tomorrow. I can see any leave requests or any workflow process that I'm associated with. I will see all of this information in the system here. I'll see when messages are sent to specific projects. So all of this information is available in my feed, and I can filter through my feed to find specific content and information. But within here, you've then got the ability to post out messages to your colleagues. So you can post out messages, you can embed links or videos into these messages as well, like so. So you can add information, you could add documents. So it's not just a case of actually posting text information, you can then add media to the post. And then we can control as well who we're sending this out to, who is the audience of this message. So in this example, I'm going to send this message to all of our employees. So let's now send this message. And then if we look at this as another user, we can now see that information. So we can see the colleague here who has been asked to confirm their attendance at the meeting. That information has been added into their feed. So they can post the messages back through here. Okay, so we can post out messages here like so. And I'm going to confirm my attendance. And then we can see the latest message about the HR webinar. So users can then add their likes, they can add responses. So it allows for full collaboration on every type of post that is submitted into someone's feed. Okay, so let's send that message back. Okay, so that's one type. We can add messages into here. You can also create tasks through here as well. So as I say, a really powerful task management system. You can add events through here. So the feed area really does allow you to create lots of different types of records inside the system. You can also create polls. So you might want to send out a question to your staff and allow them to select from maybe multiple choice answers that they can then submit their response for, and you'll get a percentage score back of what's the most popular answer to the question. We can also do appreciations. This is a really nice feature. Okay, so let's add a message here to award someone a badge for their long term with the business. So we'll add a message. Okay, so we can add that information here. And this is a badge for Marco, but we're going to make everyone in the business aware about this. So let's add all of the employees into the message and assign this to Mark. Okay, so let's now send this message. And that information, it'll then get added into their profile. So that's been mentioned, a long-term award, and they can then see their badges on their profile page. So you can see all of the appreciations here like so. So it's really rewarding to be able to see when someone is giving you that recognition through the system. And then another type of post you can do here is an announcement. Okay, so we'll mention here and a useful feature with a post is you can force the user to mark that they have read that message. Okay, so if it's a critical piece of information, the announcement tool is the best tool to utilize. So again, if we now come into this area, we can see here now the difference in that message. So we can see the markers red button here. So I can click on this and it's now going to force me to actually mark that I have read that message. And again, a user can add their own message back onto there as a comment if required. So you can see in the feed, there's lots of different styles of ways you can essentially engage with your employees through the system. And to analyze that engagement, we have a feature as well called the company pulse. So this essentially, it takes all of the usage across your BITRIX system and analyzes this information. So here I can see, for example, across the organization, which areas of the system are utilized well, but also what's maybe underutilized in the system. So if I look here at the CRM, then it gives me the overall rating. So I can see here, Sam Smith is the employee that utilizes the CRM most. And then we could also look at this and actually see here, I can see the drive area is really underutilized, and I can analyze when it is utilized and not. So we can see here from February to April, it really was underutilized. So this area here, it allows you to analyze the usage of your BITRIX system in 2 or 3 simple clicks. It analyzes the information. So then you can start to communicate with your teams and teach them about some of these other areas of the system that are being underutilized. And this is what we specialize in here at Interface. We help businesses that are not gaining full value from the BITRIX24 system. So we can teach you how these different modules can be utilized for your way of working, for your business. We can help you to then adopt and gain value from more areas of the BITRIX system, like so. Okay, so that is a look there at the core HR tools available in the BITRIX24 system. I have seen some questions come in here already. So the first question is regarding the time management tools. Is there a specific level of BITRIX that is required? So it depends which area of the time management we're looking at. So if we're looking at tasks where we can record time on tasks, then you can have any tier of the cloud edition. So from a basic, a standard, professional, you can use the task features on BITRIX. If you're wanting to use the clock in and clock out tools, okay, so where we actually record our working day with the time for that working day, you need to have at least a professional cloud edition of BITRIX24. If you're on a free, a basic, or a standard cloud, you won't have access to this feature that you can see on the screen right now. So we would need to upgrade you to the professional cloud as a minimum. But if you're on a self-hosted edition, absolutely fine. You will have access to every feature of the BITRIX24 HR process that we're looking at today. Okay, so if you have any other questions, please do add them into the question box on our YouTube channel. Or if after this meeting, if you still have questions, you can contact us with messaging sales@interface.com. And one of our team will be happy to have a meeting with you to discuss your specific questions, and we can help you to evaluate BITRIX as well if you're currently evaluating the system. Okay, so the next step of today's webinar, we're going to look at some of the workflow features within BITRIX24, because this is a really powerful area of the BITRIX system where it essentially allows you to really customize the system. So it's designed with the workflows that your HR team want to utilize. So the first example we'll look at today is we'll see how we can use the workflow tool to submit. First example we'll look at today is we'll see how we can use the workflow tool to submit a holiday request through the system. So to use the tools we're going to look at here, again, you need to have at least a professional cloud edition of BITRIX or any self-hosted version. Okay, so let's say in this example, I want to submit a holiday request. So what I can do in my feed section, as you've seen there, I can click on workflow, and then I can select here the request leave form. And this is then going to open up a form that I need to fill in to trigger this holiday request workflow into BITRIX. So on this form, you can see I need to submit my dates for the holiday request. And then I need to put a reason for the request. So we can see here what fields are mandatory and then also what are optional. So an optional field here is the file. So you can control on here what are mandatory fields, what maybe are unmandatory. So if you're maybe an optional field to, as we've seen there, store a file or a document, you can control this, even down to actually adding additional fields that maybe need to be inputted on this form. That can be completely customized as well. So what I'm going to do now is that we're going to submit that request. So we can see that request now. I can see that is now pending here. So it's gone to my feed, so I can see the information. And now I'm waiting for my manager to either approve or reject that request for my holiday leave. So if I now look at this as the manager's view, I can see here I've notified that a new request has come into the system. So I can see all of the information about that request. Okay, and I can go into our absence chart. So in the BITRIX system, you have an absence chart where you can see all of the holiday requests across the business. So you can drill down into specific departments or select based on absence types. So I can see that request was in September, and currently there's no holiday leave that has been authorized. So I'm happy to approve that request. So you can see that that's been approved, and we can see that the user has been notified that request has been completed. So that's one type of workflow in the BITRIX system. So we've managed their leave request through the platform. And I just want to show you now, essentially the back end of the BITRIX system where that workflow is processed, because this is what we call our workflow designer tool. So in here, we'll just go through exactly what we've just done there, submitting a leave request. So first of all, here we requested the leave. It then went to the supervisor, and then we had that decision to make. So using the workflow designer tool, you can set up your own conditions with approval processes. So if the request was approved, we're then running this flow down here on the left-hand side of the branches. So it's going to notify the requester that the leave is approved, which we saw, and then it's going to add that request into the absence chart, and we can then add that into the calendar. But if it's rejected, we don't follow that flow. It will simply come down this right-hand side of the business process design flow and notify the requester that the leave has been denied. So you can use the business process designer tool here to build out your own workflows. It uses drag and drop technology, and you can add multiple layers of conditions and processes into here. So you can really build out very advanced workflows using the business process designer tool in the system here. But another way that you can also use the BITRIX24 workflow tools is using a feature called robotic process automation. So I'm just going to show you here. So here we can see some RPAs. So that is robotic process automation that we have set up here. So as you can see here, we've got RPAs for business trips, expenses, recruitment, and onboarding as just a few examples. Okay, so inside here, what we can then do is we can see the information. I just believe I can see a message saying that the screen is not visible. Just be 1 second. Let me just check that for you. Okay, apologies. I'll just try to reshare the screen. Okay, we'll just reshare the screen here. Just be 1 second. Okay, apologies. I think we just lost the screen for the last minute or so. So that what I will do is let me just go back to show you the business process designer tool. So I'll just go back onto the front end of the system there. So as I was just mentioning here, what we've got, if I just come out of here, I'll just reshare this page. So we've just seen how we can submit a holiday request through the system. And what we can then see inside here is the business process designer tool. So this allows you to build out your own workflows using the BITRIX24 system. So for the holiday request that we just submitted, we can see here that the leave request was submitted. It then went through the supervisor, and it's then an approval condition. So the employee had to either approve or reject that holiday request inside the system. So you've got that approval condition. We approve that request. So it goes down this left-hand side where the user is notified that that request has been approved, and then it gets added into the absence chart. But if that holiday leave was rejected, it would then go down a different flow here. So it would notify the requester that the leave has actually been denied. Okay, so you can use this business process designer tool to build out your own workflows. It uses drag and drop technology, so you can choose the different blocks here that you'd like to add into your workflow, and you can then add multiple conditions into the system. So you can build out incredibly advanced workflows using the business process designer tool. But then another way you can use workflows in BITRIX is using the robotic process automation tool. So an RPA is another way of building out a workflow. So inside here, we've got RPAs for business trips, expenses, employee onboarding, and recruitment, to name a few. So if we go into one of our RPAs, you can see the style of this is slightly different. So the RPA system, it uses stages. So in this example, we're managing the onboarding of our employees. So here we can progress the record through different stages. So here it's the different departments for them to work on their specific elements of the onboarding. And at each stage, we can set up automations. So, for example, when we move to the HR setup, it's then creating the tasks for the HR team, and we can put approval processes in place. And if this onboarding has been at a certain stage for too long, we're setting up notifications to be sent out to the team. So you can set up those automation rules within each element of your workflow. So let's add a new employee into the system here. Okay, so we'll add their holiday leave and their employee status. So we've submitted the initial form. You can see that's now automatically gone to the HR department. So if we now look at this from the HR manager's view, we can see that they have been notified about that new request. So it goes to the correct person at the correct time. And then we can then see all of the information that they've got to complete here. So I can go into my assignments page and I can see that Danielle Connor information here. I've got to start working on this task. So I can see the details I've got to complete. And these are mandatory pieces of information. And then I can save that information like so. So myself as the HR manager, I've completed my section. And you can now see that Danielle Connor's record has moved to the IT team. So we can put controls in place to ensure the record only moves once specific information has been inputted. And each record, you can see the history there. So you can see all of the historic actions and timestamps when it's gone through different departments. And we can see some approval processes that are being put in place as well. So that is a high-level look there at some examples of how we can run our own workflows inside BITRIX24. And that brings us to the end of today's HR Toolkit webinar. So in summary, we've seen how we can set up profile for each user and build out the company structure for each department. We then looked at the time management features, so how we can clock in for our working day and record task time within a task. We've got personal drives and lots of ways you can engage with employees through the forms and posts and the announcement features. And we can put access permissions on different areas of HR features, such as on drives, or if you're wanting to run approval processes as well, you can control using the company structure where a process is sent to. And then we've seen how we can use self-service forms using the business process designer tool and the robotic process automation feature as well. So we're here every other Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. If you would like to register for those webinars, they are very useful. You can go to interface.com/webinars. And if you have any questions before the next webinar, as I say, it's every other Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. You can contact us, sales@interface.com, and one of our team will be happy to discuss your requirements with you in more detail. Thank you very much for your time today, and I look forward to seeing you on our future webinars. Bye for now.